So my name is Devin Horton, and I am the Graduate Diversity Officer for STEM Disciplines. And today I'm actually going to talk to you about my take on how to master imposter syndrome. So I'm going to go ahead and start with sharing my screen. Well, I was, but then PowerPoint is hiding again, per usual. Let's see. Okay, now let's try it again. Share screen. All right, there we go. So, um, here we go. So I just want to say before we start that I can't see the chat because I'll be flapping my gums. And so I saw that there was a question for me in there. I'll have to get to it towards the end. So I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't get to see it or won't be able to read it. So anyway, as I said, my name is Devin Horton. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Graduate Diversity Officer for STEM Disciplines here at UC Davis. And I'm going to be trying to impress upon you how to combat imposter syndrome, which we all struggle with. I also just want to point out something very funny, which is that imposter is sometimes spelled with an O and sometimes spelled with an E, and I just don't understand the English language. Okay, so the goals of the workshop are to define the origins of imposter syndrome, which really will surprise many of you. But once you learn it, you'll think, oh, yes, that makes sense. Also, so that you can learn how to identify the various types of imposter syndrome, and then hopefully learn really a couple of practical tools to be able to combat the feelings of imposter syndrome. So I normally ask who's in the room, but I realize that now that we're in Zoom, it doesn't matter. I could have created a poll to make it a little more exciting, but I didn't. I'm sorry. I know there are grad students, there may be postdocs, maybe some staff, um, and a couple faculty here and there. That's usually who hangs out. So we start here with the breakout room discussion, which is what attributes makes a person a good fit or likely to be successful in your current position. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're a graduate student or a postdoc or an administrator or whatever. But that's the question. And then the next question is to name one way in which you embody these traits. And so I'm going to pause the screen share to send you into the breakout room for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm also going to send you a link to a Google Doc that will have the discussion questions so that you may not, just in case you forget them. So I'm going to pause share. And then we're going to breakout room everybody. Uh-oh, hold on. And let's see, we've got 73 people. We'll have, okay. There we go, create rooms. If you are here as a person who's already seen this 10 times, you don't have to join the breakout room, but I ask all the new people to please join. And then I'm going to, in the chat, stop the Okay, folks are back. So, did you all have good discussions? Can I get like a reaction clap? Yes. Did I bring you back too soon? Yes, I knew that was going to happen. They always say I bring them back too soon. I don't know what goes on in these breakout rooms that people love them. I'm sorry that I bring you back too soon. But okay, good. So we all have an understanding, or at least a thought about what it takes to be sort of, or what it looks like. Am I sharing? Yes. Okay. There we go. What it means or what attributes make a person likely to be a good fit in your particular program. And then how do you embody this? You've been selected either for the position, the job, the graduate student position, the postdoc, whatever. You clearly have what it takes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. But imposter syndrome would have you think otherwise. So, what is the imposter phenomenon exactly? It's actually not a syndrome. And the reason it isn't is because the original authors, who happen to be women, didn't want it to be some other way of pathologizing women. But we still refer to it as a syndrome, even though it technically does not exist anywhere in the DSM. And so, Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern wherein, despite external evidence of your competence, which is really important, you are convinced that you're a fraud and that you don't deserve your achievements. You tend to attribute your success to luck or as a result of having tricked others into believing that you're more capable than you really are. So, this is the part that I find really fascinating because most of us in this room are some version of type A, otherwise, we wouldn't be in this room. And so it turns out that imposter syndrome often starts in childhood, where you're valued for your intelligence. And this has led to self doubt and feelings of fraudulence when the grades fall short in graduate school, or when the research doesn't rise to the level of excellence that you hoped it would, when you are either a postdoc or in your first faculty position. So what happens is people have told you were smart, and so that has translated into you should be able to do anything. And so whenever you come up against challenges, um, it makes you feel like they were wrong and you somehow have tricked them. It often comes from very unrealistic notions of what it means to be competent. And that's why I asked you all to have a discussion about what it means to be competent or what it means to be good or highly successful in whatever positions you're in. And then which attributes do you hold that represent that? Because oftentimes you think A, right? This is what makes a good graduate student, and you don't see how you embody those things. And so part of this workshop is to kind of highlight those things, bring them to the forefront of your mind, and hopefully get you to see where these things align, where these attributes align. Another interesting thing that we don't go into very much in this workshop, but I do want to address, is stereotype threat, which can also lead to feelings of imposter syndrome. And stereotype threat is the belief or the feeling of people from marginalized populations that we're at risk of of conforming to or confirming stereotypes about your particular identity group. So if for me, the most obvious one is angry Black woman. So when I have a issue with something that's happening in grad studies, maybe I feel less comfortable saying something about it because I'm worried that I'm going to confirm that. In terms of imposter syndrome, um, it, I think it plays out that way, but it can also play out in um, the stereotype that Black people are lazy. And so that means I only got my PhD because they were just letting Black people in all willy nilly. Which, by the way, if they were doing that, I think there would be more Black people getting PhDs. I just want to point that out. So that's not a thing. But if in my work I don't meet a particular deadline, I could feel like I'm reinforcing the stereotype that Black people are lazy, and then that will lead to feelings of imposter syndrome. So that's just a little bit, just a little touch on stereotype threat. Feel free to do a little more digging on that. Okay, so the 5 types of imposter syndrome. The perfectionist. This person sets excessively high goals for themselves. And then when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self doubt and then they worry about measuring up. Then there's the soloist. This person feels like asking for any kind of help reveals that they're a phony. The natural genius. This person needs to believe that they're a natural genius, and so they judge their competence based on the ease and the speed at which they can do things, as opposed to their actual efforts. They often feel shame if it takes a long time to master something. Then there's the super person, right? This person pushes themselves to work harder and harder in order to measure up, but it's just a false cover up of their insecurities. They tend to be addicted to the validation that comes from actually working and not the actual work itself. So the product or the output. It's just people seeing them busy is how they're fueled. And then there's the expert. This person tends to measure their competence based on what and how much they know or they can do, but they tend to believe that they'll never know enough and they fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. And so, yeah, with that, the question, of course, is well, what kind of imposter syndrome do you have? So there's a quiz. There's always a quiz. So I'm going to put this link. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I promise. Go back. Escape. Okay, here we go. going to put the link in the chat, and then I'm going to go to the actual link so we can see it in real time, because that's the kind of thing I like to do. Let's see, chat. All right. Let me know if it isn't working, because every now and then it isn't working. Let's see. Are y'all able to see the new screen? And so, how do I see? Let's see. There we go. Are folks able to actually take the quiz? We should be able to see it in real time. Okay, let's see what the chat's saying. I don't think you I don't think you can select more than one. I think you can only select one. Sorry. You got to commit.
It says it's reached the maximum number of responses.
But there are no responses.
I don't see I don't see the response on the screen from your share. I don't know.
Okay, so let's see. This happened last time. It was weird. This poll is running low. Do you have Oh, okay, hold on. That's weird. Oh, boo. Okay. They want me to upgrade my plan because I've given this poll a few times and I guess they're tired of me taking their free stuff. But I will say that in the other instances where I've done this poll, most people end up in the perfectionist. So I'm sorry that you can't see all the responses. It doesn't want to show them. Fine, forget you poll everywhere.
We could each click a different reaction for the different types and then look at everyone's on the group.
Oh, that's
screen.
okay. The fun of it was meant to be seeing it in real time. That's okay. In any case, as long as you know which one you are, that's more important than knowing where everybody else stands. But I think I need to recreate this poll and call it something else for next time. Okay, can everybody see the presentation again? Yes, okay, sweet. So, let me check the chat. There's one more. Okay, perfect. All right, so there are some behaviors that are associated with the imposter syndrome that you may not even be thinking about as behaviors that are specifically associated with imposter syndrome. They include avoidance, procrastination, self-doubt, and self-sabotage. And frankly, procrastination is a form of self-sabotage. Can be, not always. There are some studies that say people who procrastinate are geniuses. I just think procrastinators wrote that study. And so I'm telling you these things about imposter syndrome, but who am I as a person, right? Where do I fall in the scheme of things? And so I am a person who grew up poor and I wasn't raised by my parents. So certainly that's a reason to have some imposter syndrome. I attended really great high school, an amazing high school, and an awesome college. I went to Tuskegee University. I am the first in my family to go to college, and I'm the only person in my family to earn a PhD. And I think at this point, with the exception of the other two who went to college, I'm the only actual professor that most of my family knows. I'm not a professor anymore, but you'll soon learn that once a professor, apparently always a professor. And I too am a sufferer of imposter syndrome. I also experience bouts of stereotype threat, and I am certainly the victim of microaggressions. So I am essentially you, is my point. Um, and so the question is, how did I survive that, and how did I make it this far? And I'm going to give you some information, but the first thing I want to tell you is what I didn't do, what it wasn't. And that's because people love this word, but I hate this word. It wasn't grit. There's no intrinsic like thing in me that like kept me going, because if that's true, that means I was born with it and then you all can't have it. And that just isn't true. So just want to share this about grit. If you go to at subversive.thread, they have an actual PDF with a bunch of other problematic words. But grit is problematic, particularly for a person like me, because it is a coded term for saying a child survived the conditions of white supremacy, anti-Blackness, and capitalism without having to name those systems of oppression directly. or their correlative effects on young people of color. Black, Brown, and Indigenous students don't need to learn grit. They need schools to stop being racist, according to Andre Perry. And so it's really important to say this because this term makes people feel like crap. If you're not doing whatever grit is supposed to allow you to do, you tend to feel bad about yourself. So I just want you to know you cannot overcome imposter syndrome by having grit. It was finding community and engaging in true forms of self care. That's how I continue to overcome it, because it's not like you like arrive at sort of imposter syndrome nirvana and then it's just over. That's not what happens. If you talk to your research mentors, they will tell you they still struggle with imposter syndrome. So, what are some ways to combat imposter syndrome? So, in order to thrive in elite environments, it is imperative that you engage in serious self care. And I don't just mean bubble baths. You can't control other people's behaviors, but you can figure out how to make safe havens for yourself. And this is especially important, during COVID, when we're all having to shelter in place and we have a lot less physical access to people and safe spaces. And so you have to learn to, or you should work on learning how to manage stressful thoughts. This can be through any variety of ways. One of the one of the options is mindfulness meditation, but there's also yoga, there's puzzles, there's reading, there's all kinds of things you can do to just manage the thoughts, because really the anxiety of imposter syndrome comes from the thinking we do. And again, many of us are very type A people, and so we're probably constantly thinking. Also, you want to prioritize activities that make you feel productive, because being productive sends off endorphins, and that's a win, and it improves your confidence, and that's really good for combating imposter syndrome. And then you have to prioritize sleep and exercise. And this is for your long term. This isn't just for while you're in graduate school or while you're a postdoc or when you first start off in your first job. This is long term. If you prioritize sleep and exercise now, then it will feel as routine as brushing your teeth. And it's really beneficial for managing stressful thoughts and for combating imposter syndrome. So here are some more specific examples. I think I have about 7 of them. So volunteer in leadership positions, for example, tutoring or mentoring younger students. When you engage in activities that you're good at, like teaching others, it's really good for your self-esteem and for your confidence. And if you think I'm joking, think about the more arrogant faculty who you've ever had to engage with. They know they're good at their stuff because they spend their time teaching we mere peons, right? The more you teach, the more confident you feel, because the more you teach, the better you know the materials. So it's really good for your confidence and for your self-esteem. You can volunteer in other ways that enable you to become responsible for others. This is a really great way to tend to your imposter syndrome, because it allows the focus to be on someone else other than you. And you're no longer thinking about the competition with your classmates or with your colleagues. Build a supportive social network. And I know that's really difficult in the time of, remote learning and things like that. But building a supportive network is really important, because if you find your people, you have a group that is going to pour into you during the times where you might feel the most vulnerable. In my opinion, it is best that you find people outside of your major area, if it's possible, to alleviate the competition, because part of the imposter syndrome is attached to the competitiveness of the programs or the positions that you're in. So if you find people, a social network of people who are outside of your major research area, oftentimes you can actually talk to them about your feelings of imposter syndrome without the fear that they're going to take it as a weakness and now use it to their advantage in some competitive way over you. Find a supportive and understanding mentor, preferably outside of your discipline. That means it doesn't have to be someone on campus. It can be someone at your undergraduate institution. It can be someone at your high school. You just want someone who has life experience, who can be supportive and understanding, but also who does not have a direct tie to your success. So their only investment in your success is that they care about you specifically. And that's really important, because we feel uncomfortable talking to our PIs or our major professors about our imposter syndrome, our feelings of imposter syndrome, because we tend to feel like it's a weakness, especially because honestly, faculty don't even feel that comfortable sharing their experiences with it. So as a student or a postdoc, you might feel uncomfortable approaching your research professor saying, hey, I'm having these feelings, because you might fear that they're going to say, well, are you even up for the job? And why did we bring you here if this is how you're feeling? So having a mentor outside of that is really important to make sure to tend to the feelings of imposter syndrome. This is a really important one, and this is one you can do today. You can do tonight. What's today? Friday. I don't know what's on TV tonight because I've been watching so much television, but it's not even in real time. I don't know. Maybe you'll go back and watch Tiger King again. Whatever you're doing tonight, make a list of your strengths. That's really, really important for combating imposter syndrome. Look back at some examples of your own successful work. You got into undergrad, you got into grad school, you're now a postdoc, all of these things. Or you wrote a paper or published a manuscript, got positive reviews. Whatever you need to do to remind yourself of your accomplishments, do it. Read your own publications if you have them. Don't read them for errors, okay? Don't go looking for typos, but just as a way to remind yourself of the things that you've been good at. This is the hard one. This probably should have been the last one because it is very hard. You have to get to the point where you can accept that some tasks will not be done perfectly. And this is a thing you will always be striving to do. Even today, I have to tell myself, it is done, right? I can't make this any more than what it is, so I'm going to turn it in. A lot of the procrastination that comes from imposter syndrome is attached to this some unrealistic expectation that what you're working on has a perfect end, and you're striving to get to that, when in reality oftentimes completed is better than perfect. Perfection is the enemy of good. Is that correct? Yeah, perfection is the enemy of the good. Be aware of how you talk to yourself. This is back to why you should make a list of your strengths and maybe sit it on the side of your computer screen or something, or maybe on your desk, wherever you work, because how you talk to yourself matters. You aren't lucky for your success. You deserve what it is that you've gotten. You need to articulate to yourself exactly what you did to be able to accomplish what you've accomplished so far. The inner critic is going to be there. You just have to figure out how to overpower it with affirmations. Um, my newest affirmation is I am enough. That's it. Just I am enough. And so find one or two things that you can say to yourself every day and kind of look yourself in the mirror and smile when you say it. It is creepy, but it really does have an impact. It will lift your spirits. And then try and keep a running list of the compliments you received. I know that seems creepy and kind of self-absorbed, but everybody has a little notes app in their phone or on their computer. If somebody says, oh my gosh, you have such a great personality or whatever, just anything, just keep a running list of those things so that if you can't think about your strengths, right, you can't do number 5, at least you can think about all the things that other people have said about you. And that's really helpful when we get to number 7, which is how you're talking to yourself. You can remind yourself that no, people have really great things to say about me. Of course, I advocate 9,000% for therapy. You, as a student or a postdoc or staff or faculty, have access to health insurance on this campus. There is an entire mental health and wellness page at UC Davis, which I realize I didn't include here, but I should have, where you can do group therapy, you can do individual therapy, you can do short-term therapy, you can get a referral for a long-time therapist. I don't care what it is. A good therapist will help you manage your irrational thoughts in addition to other things. I go to therapy every every Wednesday. Even in COVID, I do it remotely. And I've done it for years. And it's really, really, really beneficial. And this is whether you suffer from imposter syndrome or not. Therapy is just like your physical health. You take care of your physical health, you need to take care of your mental health as well. Things to remember: imposter syndrome can be lonely, living silently within your inner mind for long periods of time. This is detrimental to your mental health. Human beings were meant to be in community with one another. So finding your community is a great first step to tending to this. These are some links. So I'll end up sending out the actual PDF of the presentation, and you'll be able to click the links. And so I'm going to click this one because I'm sure those people who are not Black girls are like, why would I ever be at a therapy for Black girls website? Well, there's this whole movement to get Black women to go to therapy, but that doesn't mean that therapists here only see Black women. It's just a repository for Black women who are looking for therapists. And so I highly encourage you to go to this website and see if you can find therapists that are within your network. If you click on Find Therapists, you can do it by, and look, you have a choice in office or virtual. Let's see. State of licensure, we're in California. Virtual therapist is okay. Yep. And we're going to search.
We can only see your the blue screen.
Oh, let's stop and then do a new share. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Thank you. All right, so if you go to Find Therapists, here it says virtual. State, we would want California. Virtual therapy is okay, yes. Click search. And your insurance, I don't know. Well, I don't have that. I have Anthem. Let's see. California. And you don't have to do any of this. You can just go to the UC Davis webpage. The thing about this is these are all the therapists that are in my network that I have to choose from. And that doesn't, again, this doesn't mean they only see Black people. It means that they are sensitive to the unique challenges that face Black women and women of color in general. I'm trying to see if I know any of these people. Sometimes I know them personally because I have a lot of friends who are therapists, so that's usually interesting. But you can also go to the UC Davis Health and Wellness page, and you can find therapists on campus. Like I said, you can do group therapy, whatever the case. The answer to maintaining a healthy, is that it? Oh yeah, the next slide was questions. To maintaining a healthy mental, to maintaining a healthy, what was I thinking? I forgot, guys. I'm all tongue-tied. Anyway, combating imposter syndrome takes more than just a workshop. It certainly requires actual work and actual effort. And all that will do is help you tend to it. It doesn't go away. It just doesn't. And so if you can be okay with the fact that it doesn't go away, and that it'll always be there, and that it's something that needs to be managed, that might be the first place to take a load off, right? Like, this isn't a thing I'm gonna beat, so how can I live with it? How can I manage it? How can I work with this? So that would be what I would recommend. I'm no expert. I've seen plenty of presentations on managing imposter syndrome that are incredible. I just hope that this one offered at least something to those of you who are here. And with that, I am open for questions.